The Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you, so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be made complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. You may be seated.
Good morning and happy Mother's Day. Like Spencer, about 20 years ago, my husband Steve and I moved here to Decorah from Rochester, Minnesota. We had both accepted teaching jobs with the Decorah Community Schools. Our son Andrew was approximately 3 years old, and Nathan not even a year yet. I remember he wasn't even walking yet. As we were preparing to move here, Steve was on a very tall ladder doing some maintenance on our house as we were getting ready to sell it. And he managed to fall off this very tall ladder and ended up on crutches. So here we were, just about ready to move, and by the way, we were moving ourselves with the U-Haul. 2 young children, Steve not able to work. We needed help. So in the meantime, Pastors Marion and Tom, who were pastors here at the time, had reached out because they knew that I was a music teacher and they were looking for a viola teacher for their daughter Becky, so they reached out asking if I may be interested and ended their correspondence with, if there's anything you ever need, let us know. So as much as it pained me, I had to ask for help. And when we arrived in Decorah, we knew no one. We had friends on the Rochester side and some family who helped us pack up the U-Haul, but we came here very desperate for help. We went to our rental apartment because it is very hard to find housing in Decorah, and we were greeted by members of First Lutheran Church. I remember Pat Truin was there, who had recruited a few football players to help us. Pastor Steve was there, who reminded me years later that he remembers how heavy my china hutch was. And Tim Peter, a former member, was there, and we got everything unloaded. And at the end of that unloading, Pastor Marion showed up with lemonade and cookies and the invitation. If you'd like a place to worship, come to First Lutheran Church. So probably under obligation more than anything, we came to First Lutheran Church our first Sunday here in Decorah, and everything was great, it was fine, but we decided, in the words of my mother-in-law, to do some church shopping. So we wanted to see what else was out there, so we had visited other congregations. Steve had talked to other pastors, and my mother-in-law spoke up again and said, in her wise words of a different generation, as you're doing this church shopping, I don't think she liked that word, she said to us, don't go and look so much at what the congregations have for programming, what your impressions are of the pastor, but rather, she said, discern for yourself what your gifts and your talents are that you could offer to a different congregation. She was wise. Happy mother-in-law. Happy Mother's Day to my mother-in-law, who I love dearly. Lo and behold, here we are 20 years later, still at First Lutheran, because First Lutheran is the first place in Decorah that showed us love and service to us, to people they didn't even know. And we feel that this is still our congregation where we can do that as well. I'd like to go back to the gospel that Pastor Marion read and just revisit a couple of verses. So Jesus said, verse 9, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete." The words that jumped at me when I reread this a few times is really that word joy. And in our world, we tend to equate joy with happiness. If this happens, because we put conditions on this happiness, if this happens, then I'm going to be happy. Then I'm going to have joy. If the baby sleeps through the night, I'm going to be so happy. I'll be joyful. If I get a good job and get lots of money, I can buy my first house. If my child graduates from high school. If I lose 10 pounds. We put all these conditions on what is going to make us happy, what is going to make us joy. But as I read these words, that's not what Jesus is saying to us. He's not saying that life has to go the way it wants to, or we want it to. He's saying you are going to have joy because I'm love. And that love comes from me to the Father and to us. And it's just going to overflow. Last week's gospel reading was the great I am statement that Jesus says, "I am the vine and you are the branches." We are rooted in that love of Christ. And from that love comes our joy. I'm not a theologian. I didn't go to seminary. I don't know Greek. But often our pastors will speak to us and share some Greek words with us because it helps us understand things a little deeper. So I did learn 2 Greek words that I think is better than some of the English words that we read in our Bibles today. And please correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who know better than I. But the first word I learned was the word kara, which I understand means joy. And the second word, very closely related, is the word charis, which is love. And this love is the love that we get from God that is unconditional, full of grace, and given to us not because anything that we do or any conditions that we have met. It's the same love that we are rooted in. Christ loved us so much, or Father loved us so much that he gave his only begotten Son, and that love was given to us. And we are, as the branch, meant to give that love to each other. I also wondered, can we still have joy in times when things just aren't right? I think we can all relate this past year has been hard. I will admit to you that this pandemic has done a number on me. I have felt more sadness, more anxiety, not just for myself, but for everyone, for people in my family, for people I don't know in the world. We've all felt that. But can we still have joy? And if I read this correctly, yeah, we can still have joy. We can have joy in times of grief. We can have joy when we have an unstable roof, an unstable future. We can still have joy. Something that sustained me in a time of need for me has been First Lutheran Church through this pandemic. I was really low when the pandemic started, and I was starting to think about, well, what does this mean for me, my future? Can I still go to work and teach kids? How do I teach music online? I mean, I was really low. And the thing that sustained me is Pastor Melissa offering evening prayer every day. Some days I did all I could do to just get to that point where she offered the word to us. We listened to the word, time for reflection, and she led us in prayer. And another thing that offered us is gave us a community. We were on YouTube and we could chat back and forth. These were all things that I needed, that First Lutheran gave to me. And I especially want to thank Pastor Melissa for giving of her time and willingness to do that, because it wasn't easy for her as well. But these were things that fed my soul, and I think I felt closer during those times to not only my faith, but to First Lutheran community. When Pastor Melissa had asked me to speak on service, I hesitated a bit, because when I look at First Lutheran Church and thinking about the great service projects we have here, the food pantry, the women doing the quilting to give to Lutheran World Relief, working with a free clinic, I haven't had a heavy hand in any of those things, and I thought, what do I have to say? About that same time, a longtime and beloved member of our congregation had passed away, Mary Lou Moore. And I knew Mary Lou because she was part of my Welka circle, the Martha circle, and she was often our Bible study leader. And as I read Mary Lou's obituary, she's quoted as saying these words: "Service is not so much a single project as it is an attitude. It is a way of being in the world." I think that's exactly what Jesus was saying to us. It's great to do these big projects that we can stamp First Lutheran's name on, but it's also the way we are in the world, how we treat each other, how we listen to each other. It made a lot of sense to me. And then I thought, yeah, I could talk about this, because for generations from the past and generations into the future, First Lutheran is a place that we can worship, witness, grow, and serve other people. I would like to end with a meditative practice that I have been shown, and it's very much like a mantra, but there's a twist. So a mantra is when you take a phrase or a statement and repeat it again and again. What I've learned to do is take that mantra, and each time, for each repetition, drop the final word. So I'm going to use words that are familiar to us here at First Lutheran Church. We often end our service with these words: "Go in peace and serve the Lord." This is how this would work. Go in peace and serve the Lord. Go in peace and serve the. Go in peace and serve. Go in peace and. Go in peace. Go in. Go. Thanks be to God.